to listen to a great deal of jazz. I never really played much of it, but I always listened. New York radio was full of jazz back then. And I encountered a very hip, lovely woman by the name of Teddy Annis, who happened to have been in my lane, and we signed up for the same class. Well, Teddy was a very good friend of Jim's, and we got to, also a fellow guitar player. So we got to talking, and she introduced me to Jim after I wound up hanging out in the Baird Hall, which was the home of the musicians and music students at UB. And I heard him play, and I said, wow, that's the stuff that I've been listening to on the radio but never heard in person, and it was inspiring. So I got to meet many musicians there, and there was a gentleman who is now on the West Coast by the name of Joe Azzarello, who was a gifted piano player. And one day, I don't remember how, I got to be in the same room with Joe and Jim was at the piano, and he was showing Joe his arrangement of Deep Purple. Jim had worked out this wonderful chordal arrangement, and I almost saw Joe's eyes popping out of his head. And I didn't even know that Jim played piano. I'm thinking he's supposed to be a bass player. Obviously, Jim was just a consummate musician. As all of you who know him know, he was kind of a reserved man, and what comes to mind was the first time that I was with Jim and he heard Bobby Jones at the No Name Bar in 1972, and Bobby was playing a huge Hammond B3 organ and just burning the place up. And Jim was knee slapping and punching me and just way out of character, and I just, that's one of the moments that will always stick with me. Probably the most important memory I will have of many of Jim is how, when my then 10-year-old son, Avery, started playing guitar out in clubs with me. And Jim was just so incredible. I was doing many duo gigs with Jim at the time, and he was very supportive. And I just remember that I turned around and Avery was comping just a simple 1-4-5 in a shuffle rhythm, and Jimmy was soloing, and I looked and I said, he's 10. Life doesn't get better than this. And he was so encouraging to Avery as he watched Avery grow through the 2 or 3 years that they spent together doing gigs. And Avery moved on from 1-4-5 to chord melodies and more advanced things, but he always enjoyed playing with Jimmy on both a personal and musical level. I'm going to play a song that Jimmy and I have played together for over 30 years, and I can't remember a gig where we didn't play this. I'm sure there may have been 1 or 2, but it was a song that we just liked to play together. And at the end of it, I would vamp a couple of chords, and Jim would just stretch out and solo till his ideas ran out. It was about a week or 2. And I'm going to ask that at the end of the song, we just have maybe 15 to 30 seconds of silence and try and hear that solo in your head.